Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another Metallica tutorial. This is one off of the And Justice for All album. Please like and subscribe for more of this kind of content. And if you really want to take your learning experience to the next level, grab the Guitar Pro Session and PDF tab off of my website to follow along with this lesson and play along. You can speed that Guitar Pro Session up and down, loop certain sections of it. It's a lot of fun and you'll speed up the learning process. Let's jump right into this. There's the first half of it, the first four measures. Let's break this down. The trickiest thing is going to be letting everything ring together. You want to hold your fingers down and let the notes all bleed together as much as possible. You'll have to really get up on your fingertips to make that happen. So you don't want to hear this, right, where you're lifting your fingers as you play. You want to keep them down and let all the notes ring together as much as possible. So start with a B power chord. Fret the second fret of the A string. Use your pinky to get the fourth fret of the D string. Now we're going to play those notes. We're going to go A string, D string, back to the A string, and then lift your pinky to get the open D. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, and once again, let those all ring together. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, except instead of fretting the B on the second fret of A, we're going to go down to the third fret of the E string, but the movement on the D string stays the same. So we go low E, that fourth fret on the D string, back to the low E, and then open D. So let's put those two chords together. Measure 3 is exactly what we did in measure 1 with the B. And measure 4 is exactly what we did in measure 2 with that G on the third fret of the low string. We're just going to add an open G in at the very end. So let's put all four of those measures together. Let's move into the second half of the riff. We're going to start with that B again, exact same thing that we've just did in the first half. Now we're going to start with an open A and the same movement on the D string. So open A, fourth fret on D, open A, open D. Go back to that G that we had in the first half as well. That's the same. And then our last measure is just a quick measure of 2 beats. So we have an open E followed by the second fret on the A string, and then second fret on E, second fret on A. Have to roll your finger for that last one. And to get those nice and tight and cut short, I drop my fretting hand fingers. I drop my picking hand as well. And then those 8 measures repeat twice more, and the guitar solo comes in over top of that. So let's put those 8 measures together nice and slow. Let's just talk about one more thing. That riff repeats 3 times, plays it just how we played it, and then it plays twice more with a guitar solo over top. The only thing that changes is that fourth measure where we had that G major 7 and we added that open G. When you play it underneath the guitar solo, you want to cut that open G string short, make it staccato too. That's it. We play that riff 3 times, and at the very end, instead of just a measure of 2/4, we actually extend that into 4 beats. We go. Before we get into the next part of the song. So all that is doing the 2 beats that we learned already. Go open E, second fret on the A string again, and then hammer from the second fret to the fourth fret, back to the second fret. Just a little grace note hammer, back to the second fret there. And then into the next part of the song. So let's slow that section down with some scrolling tap. Okay, let's break the intro solo down now. Here's a quick playthrough of that. So we start the solo with this. So we're going to start on the D string, hammer from 2 to 4. Now come up to the G string, hit 2, and then bend 4 and release it. Put that together. Now we have so coming up to the B string, 3 to 2 pull off, and then down to 4 on G. Repeat that 3 to 2 pull off, this time come down to 2 on G. So a little bit of finger roll there to get that. Now hit the 3rd fret twice before pulling off to 2. And going to the 4th fret to end that on the G string again. So put this together, all that we have so far. Now we have a cool little lick that comes down the G string. So we're going to start up on the 11th fret of the G string, pull off from 11 to 9, and then hit an open D. Now come down and hit 9 to 7 pull off on G with an open D. Do the same thing, pull off 7 to 6 on G with an open D. So let's just put that together so far, nice and slow, goes like this. Now it changes a little bit here. We're going to go 6-4 open on G, so 3 notes before we hit the open D. Come down to 2, sliding to 4. So that last little bit. Let's put it all together. And you can experiment with that open G too. Some of that live footage, I see him kind of sneak that open G in a little more freely. Like you could even hit that open G between that 7 and 6. So you could experiment putting that open G in different places. Sliding into that first note sounds cool too. Okay, I hear him do that kind of stuff live. He does play with it a little bit, but we went over how it is on the album. And now, after that, so we're going to slide into the 4th fret on G, and then we're playing with that 2nd and 3rd fret up on B again. So we're sliding into 4 and then 2, 3, 2 on B. So then we slide into 4 again, and then 2, 3, 2 on B. Now we come down to G, and on the album you hear the A pulling off to open G, and it is cut a little bit short. It doesn't ring straight into the sliding into the 4th fret. It's cut off there. Like that. Okay, so that takes care of the first half of the solo. Let's move on into the second half. Starts with a little sweep pick. Okay, and this isn't too hard to pull off because our hand is just doing a nice shape here. We're going to put one finger each fret, each string. So start with your pinky on the 17th fret of D, 3rd finger on the 16th fret of G, 2nd finger on the 15th fret of B, and your 1st finger on the 14th fret of the E string. So, okay, so when you get that up to speed, you're really just doing one fluid motion. And then you're going to stick your pinky out onto the 19th fret of the E string. So pull off between 17 to 15 on the E string, then pick 14 and 15, coming down to the 15th fret of B. Now we have a climb up the G string. So we're going to go 7 to 6 pull off back to 7. Then 9, 7 pull off back to 9. 11 to 9 pull off back to 11. Then hit 12 twice down to 11. Nice and slow again. Now we're finishing this off. This is all based around a B minor triad to start and then a little run up and down the scale on the B string to end it. This is probably the toughest lick of the solo due to the fact that we're picking through multiple strings really quite rapidly. So we're going to start with our pinky on the 14th fret of A, 2nd finger on the 12th fret of D, 1st finger on the 11th fret of G. Stay on that G string, 12, 14. So we have those 5 notes. Now we're going to do those 5 notes again, just changing the last note. We're going to go up to the 12th fret of the B string as the last note rather than the 14th fret of G. So it's going to go like this. So put those 2 sets of 5 notes together. Now this is perhaps the very toughest thing of the solo. We're going to go across 4 strings really quick like this. So we're sticking with that 14th fret on A, 12th fret on D, 11th fret on G. Those are being repeated from before. And then instead of staying on the G string, we're going to go right up to the B string 12. So those 4 notes. Now stay on the B string. So after we've done those 4 notes, we're gonna you hear a little hammer on the album where he's picking from 12 hammering to 14, then up to 15 and 17, back to 15, 14, 12, then pick 14 twice, 15, 12. So that last little run. Just because that's the toughest part of the solo, let's put those last runs together. Okay, let's slow it all down with some scrolling tab. And now we get into a section of the song that's in 3/4 time. So here's a playthrough of the next section. As I mentioned, this section transitions to 3/4 time, which means that we're going to have 3 beats in every measure. But the chord progression stays the exact same as what we just learned. So we're going to start the first half of our riff, B, G, B, G. Okay, same progression. And really all we're doing is adding just a little bit on to what we just had. A little bit more going on specifically in the picking hand, but we can even start off the same with just those 4 notes that we had. It starts off like that, except when we hit that open D, we're going to double pick it. So we're going to have a quick down up. Then put your pinky back down on the 4th fret of D and then open D again. So put it together. And then we're going to go to G, start with what we had before. Just add, putting your pinky back down onto the 4th fret, double pick that, open D. So that measure. Let's put those 2 measures together. The next 2 measures are the exact same, just repeat those. And for those of you who are curious how we would count that, 1 and 2 and a 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and a 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So 3/4 time, you just count to 3. Okay, so that is the first half of the riff. Second half of the riff, again, just follows the chord progression that we learned a minute ago in the last section. And then we have a new little way of ending this this first time through this pattern. So again, we start this second half of the riff with B, play that just how we just learned it. And then lifting your first finger, starting with that open A. We can start that measure the same way as in the last section. And then you just want to put your pinky back down on the 4th fret of D, double pick that. And then add an open G onto that. So that measure. Now go to G. On the second half of the riff, though, the pattern slightly changes. On the first half of the riff, we double picked with our pinky down on the 4th fret. This time, on the second half of the riff, we're going to double pick the open D string. So we're going to do this Okay, so remember the first time in the first half of the riff, we had, and now we're doing this. So very slight, subtle change. Just remember, first half of the riff, double pick the pinky down, and then the second half of the riff, you'll double pick the open string. Now we have this. And that's where we transition into the next part of the riff. So we want to start with an open E, and then skip the A string, go up to the D string, hit the second fret, hammer onto 4. Back to open E, and then the second fret on D. So we're skipping that A string. Now move your finger down to the second fret of the E string, where we're going to arpeggiate an F sharp power chord. So 2 on E, 4 on A. Move up a half step to a G power chord. We're going to have 3 on E, 5 on A, and then open D. Repeat the third fret on the E string before moving up and arpeggiating an A power chord. So that's 5 and 7. And then we start the next part of the riff, which starts on the 5th fret of A. But let's just put these two, what I call a little transition piece, from one riff into the next. And now we get into a new section of the riff, and the first couple of measures go like this. We'll just take it that far. We're really arpeggiating a D power chord here, but we have an open G that comes into play. So 5 on A, 7 on D, then hit an open G, then put your pinky down and get the 7th on G. So these 4 notes. Come back to the 7th fret on D. Then you can lift and get an open G. That gives you time to transition over, move your hand, and hit the 5th fret of D with your 3rd finger. So you might have noticed we actually have a unison pitch there. It's the same pitch, just 2 different ways of playing the same pitch. An open G and the 5th fret on D. Same pitch. From there, okay, so after we've hit the 5th fret with our 3rd finger, 2nd finger goes down to the 4th fret of G and double pick that. Now you're going to hit an open B, hammering to the 3rd fret with your 1st finger, pulling off to the open B again. Repeat that double picking of the 4th fret of G and the hammer pull between the open and 3rd fret with your 1st finger. And then an open G allows you to transition to the next part of the riff nice and smoothly. So those open Gs are really key to keeping everything smooth and ringing and bleeding together so that it doesn't sound stilted and jarring. Okay, so let's put all this together nice and slow. From there, then we're going to get into a little bit of a repeat there. Okay, so nothing new on this. This is a nice easy measure because we've just covered the same pattern that we had a second ago where we arpeggiated down here on the 5th and 7th frets. We're going to use that same pattern up here on 8 and 10. So we've got 8 on A, 10 on D, open G, then put your pinky down on 10 on G, back to 10 on D, and then open G. So as you can see, that's the same pattern that we had down here. We're just moving it up. Now the pattern changes a little bit here. So we're going to go 7 on A, double pick 9 on D, then open G, back to 9 on D, put your pinky down on 9 on G, then you can slide from 9 to 7 on the D string, and that puts you in position to start the repeat on the D. Okay, so let's just put these two measures together. Now we have a little bit of a repeat. So we only play the first two beats of this E that's on 7 and 9 on the A and the D. Okay, so hit 7, double pick 9, open G, then slide 9, and then you can hit the 3rd fret on A and get into the repeat. So there's that whole section. Now, when we reach this D, that's all got a harmony line over top of it on the album. There's 2 more guitars layered up on top of that. And Kirk kind of simulates that live. Not obviously can't play exactly what's on the album because he's just one guitar player, but I'll layer up what's on the album and then I'll show you what he's doing live too, just to simulate that part. So let's play James's part here, nice and slowed down with some scrolling tab, and then I'll talk about what Kirk does for you. Now, as I mentioned, when we hit that D, that part, there's a harmony line that comes in, and that's played by Kirk live. But let's cover what's on the album first, and then I'll show you what he plays live. So here's a quick playthrough of those 2 harmonies. So let's talk about the lower harmony first. Starts off with this. So we're starting off by arpeggiating that D power chord. 2 hits on the 5th fret of A, and then 7 on D, 7 on G. You're going to repeat that 7th fret on G as we get into the next little bit. So repeat that 7th fret, and then hop down to 5, and then we're going to do a hammer pull from 4 to 5, and that's all in the G string. Coming down to the D string, 7-5. Okay, and then to end it, so we're going to repeat that 5th fret on D. We had this. Now repeat that 5th fret and skip down to the 3rd fret. And then we're going to repeat the 3rd fret as we go 3, 5, 7. And then 5, 7 hammer back to 5. So here we have it nice and slow. That's the first half. The second half, we just repeat. The ending changes slightly. Now from here, the very end, we just go 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, 2, all on the D string, just walking up and down the D string. Okay, end on the 2nd fret there. So there's the first harmony guitar. Let's play it nice and slow. Now let's talk about the higher guitar. Starts off the same. We just skip up and play a little bit higher after this D arpeggio, but arpeggiate that D the same. So 2 hits on the 5th fret of A, then the 7th on D and G. Repeat that 7th fret as we go up to the 9th fret on G. And then 7, 9, hammer pull down to 5, 4. So a quick little run down the G string. Repeat the 4th fret and then skip down to the 2nd fret. And then we go. So that's 2, 4, 5. And then 4 to 5 hammer, back to 4. So there's the first half of that second harmony guitar. Let's put that together slow. And again, the repeat, pretty much the same except for the very end. Okay, so once we reach that 2nd fret, just go 2, 4, 5, 4, 2, open. So he ends on that open G. And there's both harmony guitars. Let's put this second one together slow as well. So there's the harmony guitars, how they are on the album. Live, he basically plays half and half. He plays the first half with the lower harmony and then transitions to the higher harmony for the second half. This is what he's doing live. So as you can see, he's not changing anything. I'm sure you could find footage where he improvises with it a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, this is what he's doing. So he starts off with that lower harmony. Now he goes to the higher at that part. Remember, the lower harmony stayed low and went 5, 7, 5 on the D string. But this is where he skips up and does the higher harmony. Goes to 4, 5, 4 on the G string. And then the second half is just the higher part, verbatim how we learned it from the album. Ending on that open G. So that's how you can duplicate it live if you're out there playing it live yourself. And that riff leads us into our verse. Now the verse is pretty much the same as what we've just talked about, but there's a couple of things in there to be aware of. So let's just do a playthrough of the verse and then I'll point out any differences and then we'll move on into the chorus. So not much new happening in the verse. It's really the same stuff that we just went over, same chord progression and picking patterns. Biggest difference is in measure 4. So our first half of the riff is still going B, G, B, G. And then in measure 4, so we go E string, D string, E string, and then open D, but cut it short. And then hit an open A and an open D, and then get into the next half of the riff, which is still following that same chord progression. Just a measure of 2/4 at the very end, and then repeat the whole riff exactly the same a second time, and then we get into the chorus. So let's break that chorus down super quick. Let's just do it all in one big chunk, and then I'll slow it down after. So the chorus. Okay, starts off. So these are power chords: G power chord, 3rd fret of that E string, up to open A, B power chord on the 2nd fret, back to open A, back to G. Okay, so root movement. Now we have. So that's going down to the 2nd fret on the E string, F sharp, up to B, open A again. Let's just put that measure together. Now we have. So that's going up to B, sliding up a whole step to C sharp on the 4th fret, back to B, back to open A. And then to end it, just a little chromatic movement on the A string, frets 3, 4, 5, walking up into that D on the 5th fret. So let's put that whole riff together. Okay, let's slow it all down with some scrolling tab. Now, after the first verse and chorus, we repeat for another verse and chorus. And right before we get into the 3rd chorus and where the song picks up a notch, we have a 2nd guitar solo. So let's do a quick playthrough of that 2nd guitar solo, and then we'll break it down. So we start off with this. Going to start on the B string, pull off from 10 to 7. Then you're going to have to manipulate your first finger a little bit. Get 7 on the G string, back up to 7, 10 on B. Then go 10, 8, 7 on B, down to 9 on G, back up to 7 on B, where you're going to hammer and pull to 8. And then again with that first finger down to the 7th fret of G. Now we have. Kind of the same idea, just moved up a string set. Slide into 10 with your pinky. Go 10, 8, 7 on that E string. Down to 10 on the B string. Back up to the E string where we're going to do that hammer pull between 7 and 8. And finish it on 8 on the B string. Again, we kind of have the same idea. Going up to the 17th and 14th fret on the high string. Okay, pull off there. Down to 15 on B. Back up to the high string, 14, 17. Then we go 17, 15, 14. When we hit that 14th fret, we hammer onto the 15th, pull back off to 14, down, end it on the 15th fret of B. Now we do a little walk up. So we go 15 on B, and then 14, 15, 17 on the high E. Moving up to go do some rapid pull-offs here. 19, 17, 15. I'm going to do that 3 times before we shift down and go 14, 15. Come down to the B string, 17, back up to 14 on E, ending on 15 on B. On live footage that I see, he adds another note in there that sounds kind of neat if you want to do it too. He goes. So after he plays it like it is on the album, he gets the 17th fret on the high E there and comes back to the 15th fret on B. So you can throw that in there too if you want. Okay, so that whole phrase. Now we have some dyads. We're going to slide into 7 on G and 8 on B. Hit that 4 times before you lift your second finger and just bar the 7th fret on G and B. Now we're going to do the same thing up on 12 on G, 13 on B. So hit 12 on G, 13 on B 4 times before you lift that second finger and get the 12th fret barred with your first finger. Only thing to note there, and this is getting a little bit fussy, but if you wanted to make it sound just like the album, it doesn't sound to me like he's picking that first time that he slides into 12 and 13. So you would pick all of these and then just slide up to 12 and 13 that first time and then pick from there. So nice and slow, it would look like this. Okay, that's what's going on there. And then to finish it, have a little tapping thing here. We're going to tap 20, and this is all on the E string. Tap 20, and then pull off between 17 and 13. So. Just those 3 notes. And I don't count like 6 to count that. I would just go 1 and 2 and 3 and. So every time your finger comes down, you're just counting 8th notes, feeling 8th notes. That's how you would do it. To end that, you just revert to picking, and you're going to pick 12, sliding up to 13, back to 12. Do that twice. And that's the solo. Let's slow it down with some scrolling tab. Coming out of that solo, we get into a third chorus, which is longer than the other choruses so far. We play the riff 2.5 times instead of just the once for this third chorus. And then we get into an interlude section. The interlude section has a harmony guitar line. So we have a rhythm guitar and 2 guitars playing in harmony, and they're actually playing octaves a third apart. So let's cover the rhythm first. I'll play through the next part for you, and then we'll break that down. So getting into this interlude that we're about to break down, we have a third chorus. And for the third chorus, we play the riff 2.5 times. For the third time through that riff, we only play it half. Just make sure that you have a nice heavy palm mute on the A, B, A power chord movement. Everything else is the same. At that point, we get into the interlude. We're going to play on the A, D, and G strings to start with. Get the open A, 7th fret on D, 5th fret on G. So we're going to hit those 3 strings to start, and then after that, we're only going to play 2 strings. We'll just be playing on the D and the G. So hit those 3 strings. Now we're just on the D and the G. Play 5 and 7 one more time. Put your pinky down on the 7th fret of G so you have the 7th on D and G. Taking the pinky off back to our 5 and 7. So here it is. Gonna hit an open A there as we transition to. So slide into 4 on G and 5 on D, hit that 3 times. Then put your 3rd finger down on the 5th fret of G so that you've got 5 on D and 5 on G. Lifting the 3rd finger back to 4 and 5. Try to get a little vibrato on that too as you slide them into the next bit here. So let's just put that together so far. Now we have some power chord movement. Back to the repeat. So what we're going to do, start with a B power chord, 2nd fret of the A string. Now what we're going to do is come down and hit an F sharp power chord, but Hetfield has a unique way of playing this. It makes it really smooth and quite easy to play actually, where we're kind of going to bar the bottom 2 strings. So bar the E and the A with your 1st finger, then your pinky doesn't have to move, it doesn't have to hop. As you're holding down the B power chord, all we have to do is use our 3rd finger to play the 4th fret of the A string. So all that we're really doing is lifting that 3rd finger, putting it up and down as we're transitioning from a B to the F sharp, back to B, back to F sharp. Then we're going to do the same trick up a half a step on C and G on the 3rd fret. Okay, so move up a half step, hit the C power chord on the 3rd fret of A 3 times. Then use that same trick to drop the 3rd finger to get a G power chord on the 3rd fret of the low E string. Back up to C. Then we're going to have an open A string to get us back up to the repeat. Let's just put those power chords together. The second time through that riff, you might have caught it. everything's the exact same, except when we hit the C, we're going to do a little chug in there. So hit C and then down, up with a palm mute, and down. That's all that we're going to do. So instead of 3 downs on C, we have down, then down, up with a palm mute, down again. Then back to G, back to C, open A, and then we can repeat. So the second time, that ending is going to look like this. Okay, so after we've played that riff 4 times, we're going to just move it down. So the octave harmony guitars drop out after that riff is played the 4 times through. And then we're going to play the exact same riff, just move it down a string set. So instead of playing it on the A, D, and G strings, we're going to play it on the E, A, and D. But it's the exact same riff, so we don't need to break this down note for note again. Just everything we did on the A, D, and G, move it down. That changes just slightly. Instead of sliding in, we're going to just put a heavy palm mute on that. And then the power chord movement stays the same. Okay, so at the very end, when we hit our C power chord, we're going to go C, G, C, G. There's no open string at the very tail end of the riff the last time. And then, it's kind of a strange chord to end with a lot of distortion, but it works here because it creates a lot of tension getting into the next section of the song. We've got an open E, and then just a C power chord. So you could think of it as C in first inversion. We've got third, the G, the E in the bass. Now, to my ear, that's the more prominent guitar, but I feel like there's another guitar in there as well that we're hearing. Because I hear this little movement on the D string from an E up to the G. You can hear it in there. So I feel like there's a second guitar layered in there that's hitting this dyad. We've got the open E, the 3rd fret on the A string, the C, and then the E on the 2nd fret of the D string. So you're going to hit that, and then stick your pinky out and get the 5th fret of the G. I hear that in there. So those two guitars combined, it creates that final chord there. So let's slow this down with some scrolling tab and then talk about the octave harmony that's on top of that riff. Okay, let's talk about the harmony lead over that section now. Here's a playthrough of those two guitars. So for this section, we have two lead guitars playing octaves in harmony. Let's cover the lower harmony guitar first. It starts like this. So we're just sliding up and down the A and the G strings for this entire section. And we're going to play two C's here, an octave apart to start. We've got the C on the 3rd fret of A and the C on the 5th fret of G. So you'll be using your first finger and your pinky to do this entire part. And now most of the muting is taken care of with your first finger. So if you're muting properly with that first finger, you should be able to strum through all 6 strings and only hear that one note. So once that finger placement is correct, it's easy to pop down that pinky. And again, you don't have to be too accurate with your pick because your muting is muting off all those strings. And you're just going to hit all the strings and only hear those 2 notes. So start off with the 3rd and the 5th frets there, C. Go back a half step to B. Back up to C, sliding a whole step to D. Okay, so we have this. Now go back to B, slide up to C. Okay, there's our first phrase, nice and slow. Our second phrase starts off the same. Now we're just going to go up a half step to the 6th fret, so D sharp or E flat, however you want to think of that, sliding up 1/2 step to E on the 7th fret. Okay, and now there's the first half of the harmony section. The second half is the exact same except for one small change. That right there, we fall back to the 2nd fret on that last beat there of that measure. So before we stayed up on the D. That was the measure before. This time we fall to B. And then the rest is the same. And then again fall on that last beat. Okay, so there is the lower harmony guitar. I'll just play it nice and slow the whole way through for you. Now let's talk about the higher harmony. We're going to start off on the 7th fret, so E's, 7 on A, 9 on G, and then we're going to come down to 5, back up to 7, sliding to 10. Okay, so once again, that's 7, come down to 5, 7, sliding to 10. Now we're going to come down, and these two guitars go in unison briefly here. So that measures the same. We're doing B to C on the 2nd and 3rd fret, but we're going to hop down to the low E string 3rd fret and 5th fret on the D string. So we're going to hit a G octave there. Okay, so except for that last octave, those two guitars are in unison for that measure. Now we're going to go back up and repeat this. Now go all the way up to the 14th and 16th frets, and then sliding 1/2 step to 15 and 17. And that is B to C again. So it's the same as down here. This is just an octave higher. Now we're done the first half of that section. So again, it's going to be the exact same except for that one small change like the lower harmony had. Okay, there it is. We're falling all the way down to the 5th fret there, 5 and 7. The first time that we did this in the first half of the section, we just stayed up on 10 and 12. So we had this before. Right, now on that last beat, we're falling. then the same. Repeat. And then all the way up here again. So let's put that higher harmony together nice and slow for you. And there's the harmony lead for that interlude section. And then we ramp it up a bit and start getting to. So let's talk about that part next. Here's a playthrough of that, and then we'll break it down. So we're into the heavy part of the tune, and this riff is one of the toughest in the track to really dial in and get super tight and precise. So you'll want to work with it slow and really feel the rhythm of it before you bring it up to speed. Now, let's break down the first couple of measures. All that we're doing is really chugging on the low E string and stabbing an E power chord. Okay, so we've got 6 notes a beat. We're going to chug the E string 6 times for beat 1, and then beat 2 is a stab. Same with beat 3 and 4. We've got 6 chugs in beat 3, and then stab on beat 4. So the secret here to keeping this tight is to feel a triplet type feel for those 6 notes. Triplet, 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 right? Beat 1 is a 1 triplet, triplet, 2. Then beat 3, 3 triplet, triplet, 4. So you don't have to count it like that, though. That can be a bit cumbersome, but you want to feel that triplet, triplet, 2, triplet, triplet, 4. All right, triplet, 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 triplet. Okay, so you can really say anything you want that's going to keep you in time or that makes you feel that rhythm. You don't have to count it 100%, precise way according to a textbook. Just whatever gets you feeling that triplet, 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 triplet. And then you can be sure that it's going to be super tight and precise. Okay, so there's the first couple of measures. And now the third measure. It's the same, just beat 2, you don't cut that power chord short. You let it ring out for the duration of beat 2. Here it is slow. And then starting in measure 4, we have a slightly different ending to the measure. Okay, so we have a little movement there on beat 4 where we're barring the 2nd fret on the A and the D, followed by barring the 3rd fret on the A and the D. Other than that, the measure is the same. Now, to ensure that that ending stays nice and tight and clean, because you don't want to hear this. You don't want to accidentally ring the low E string below that 3rd fret. It would sound bad. So what I do is on beat 4, I make sure that my 1st finger and my 2nd finger both butt up and touch that low E string when I play, just to ensure that it doesn't ring out accidentally. So I can hit the low E string when I'm playing those dyads, and you won't hear it, and it stays nice and tight. Okay, so that measure repeated a couple of times for you again is this. Okay, so then we play that 5 times with that little power chord movement there on beat 4. So we have 8 measures before the singing starts. So it's a normal structure to a song, but those 8 measures are structured a little bit weird, which kind of makes it more difficult to analyze. So again, our first 2 measures are just stabs, right? Then the third measure has that beat 2 ringing out. And then starting on beat 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we have that the power chord movement on beat 4. And then the vocals start, and the vocals go over a 4 measure phrase in the bridge. And those 4 measures is really just 2 measures repeated. So we have 1 measure, and then this next measure, and then you repeat that again. And there is the vocals, what that sits on top of. And then we jump into this octave thing. So again, we're chugging 6 notes. And then we have an octave on the A string and the G string. So 7th fret on A, 9th fret on G. And then just repeat the chugs. And we're going to play that 7 and 9, sliding up half step to 8 on A and 10 on G. And all of these octaves are just sliding up and down the A and the G string, okay? So a little half step slide there. So far we have this. Now repeat the chugs. And now we're going to hit 5 on A, 7 on G. And we're going to do a bigger slide back up to 8 and 10. So we're sliding up a step and a half there. So far we have this. And then we repeat everything except for the last measure. Okay, so the last measure, we're going to go from that 5 and 7 down to 2 and 4. The first half, we slid up to 8 and 10. This time we're sliding down. Okay, so let's just play those octaves nice and slow. And then we repeat the vocals. And then we increase the tempo and get into a new riff and the solo comes in. But that takes care of the lower tempo portion of the song. So let's slow that down with some scrolling tab. And now we have a tempo change where the song really kicks into high gear. So here's a playthrough of the next little bit of the rhythm, including the rhythm underneath the solo. So we get out of the vocal bridge and the tune immediately doubles in tempo. And we have a good strong triplet feel for the rest of the tune. So it's imperative to feel those triplets to get it nice and tight like it is on the album. So here's the riff that we get into. Now, we're going to start with 2 beats of triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, so 6 chugs on that low E string, followed by barring the A and the D string at the 2nd fret. And I think it's important to note there that I'm not being super precise with my picking. I can get aggressive with it and hit that low E string, and it stays nice and clean and tight because I'm using my 1st and 2nd fingers when I'm barring the 2nd and 3rd frets to butt up against that low E. And then that keeps it nice and tight so that you're not hearing, especially when you're barring those 3rd frets, you don't want to hear that low E underneath. It'll sound pretty bad. So that's how I'm keeping it nice and tight. And like I said, if you were to really zoom in and look at my picking hand, I'm sure you'd see that I'm hitting that low E string a lot. So you can get aggressive with it and it'll be tight if your fret hand muting is proper. Okay, so we start off with that. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, and then just repeat that. 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2. And then we're only going to do 3 chugs on the low E, followed by the 3rd fret bar on the A and the D, and you'll have to do that with an upstroke. Okay, so that is the main riff. We play that 4 times. After we've played that 4 times, we're going to just chug on the low E, and we're basically just mirroring the rhythm of that main riff. We're just not playing the chords. So we're going to have 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2, 3 triplet, 4, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. That last beat 4 there in the last measure, just fill it with triplets instead of mirroring that quarter note that we had in the main riff. Okay, so those 2 measures without the counting for you. Okay, and to get it nice and tight, I drop my fretting hand fingers over top of that E string, and I also will put a heavier palm mute with my picking hand to kind of stop the string too. Okay, so far we've played that main riff 4 times with 4 measures of just chugging on E, kind of mirroring that rhythm. Then you're going to go back and repeat all of that again. So play that main riff 4 times with the same low E string chugging afterwards, and then we get into the solo. Now, the solo is best understood just in 8-bar segments. If you think 8 measure chunks, you'll get through this just fine and you'll memorize it just fine too. So our first 8 measures is just that main riff 4 times. It's a 2-measure riff. We play it 4 times. There's the first 8 measures. Now, after that, we have a 2-measure tag that doesn't fit nicely into our 8-measure chunks. So we have a 2-measure chunk there that again is just mirroring that main rhythm. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then we're into our next 8-measure chunk. Now our next 8-measure chunk, you can really think of it as E power chord for 3 measures, G for 1, E for 3, G for 1. So, and that's our next 8-measure chunk. So it's going to go like this. Okay, there's our next 8 measures. So like I said, we're going to play 3 measures on E, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4. So on the beat 4 there of the 3rd measure, we go up, bar the 3rd frets, and then up to our G power chord, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. And then we repeat that. And on that second time around, we're going to put a brief E power chord in on beat 4. Then we're into our next 8-measure chunk. Okay, so if you've kind of been learning this rhythm before and wondered why there's an E in there, that's why. We're kind of ending one 8-measure section into the next 8-measure section. And the next 8-measure chunk is kind of a mirror of what we just learned, just 2 new chords. We're going to do 3 measures on a G power chord, followed by 1 on F, back up to G for 3, 1 on F. Okay, so our next 8 measures is going to go like this. Okay, so like I said, 3 measures on G, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4. On beat 4, go up half a step to the 4th fret, G sharp, and then come down to F on the 1st fret, just 1 measure. And then we're going to repeat that. So go back up to G. And then we're into our next 8 measures. And our next 8 measures now is 2 measures on G, 2 measures on F, 2 measures on G, 2 measures on F. So our next 8 go like this. Okay, so it's kind of cool that we're switching to a duple feel. We're going, we have solid triplets, a good strong triplet feel for the whole thing, except all of a sudden this comes in where we're dividing the beat up equally into equal halves. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. That's our measures on G. Going back down to F. And then just repeat that. And now we have a 2-bar tag where we have a little chromatic rundown. So our little thing, nice and slow, is like this. And then into our main riff, we're out of the solo. So that's just palm muting the 3rd fret on the low string G, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. So you're going to have 7 chugs on there. Now we go up to the 5th fret of the A string, and that's starting on beat 4. 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So because it starts on beat 4, I actually start that run with an upstroke so that when I get out of that little run, I can start the main riff with a good solid downstroke. So 4 triplet, 1 triplet, stay on that note for 2 beats, and then we're going to be changing notes every beat. 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Okay, so really nice and slow, that rundown. And then we're out of the solo into the main riff again. Okay, so now that we've broken that rhythm down nice and slow, let's slow it down with some scrolling tab. Now we get into the solo. Here's a playthrough of that. Okay, let's break this down. We get into this tapping passage, the first couple of measures. So what we're doing is tapping the 19th fret on the high E string and then basically trilling between 12 and 15. You don't have to be too exact about the order of these notes. You're basically just using your tapping finger as the timekeeper. You're tapping the eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so you'll have 8 taps with your finger per measure. And then while you're tapping those eighth notes, you're just trilling between 12 and 15. Now, after you've done one measure of that, you just move your tapping finger up to the 20th fret, 1 fret up, and you do the exact same thing. Okay, so these measures go by extremely fast, and when it's up to speed, you really have to be tapping fast. But then after you've done that, we just move down to the B string and do the exact same thing. You're tapping 19 and trilling between 12 and 15. And then move up to 20. Now, before we just kind of put this together, let's do the last little tapping bit here where we're going to move down and tap 17 on the B string and then trilling between 10 and 13. Move your tapping finger up to 18 while you're still trilling between 10 and 13. Okay, so let's put those together. So to finish this off, we're going to move our tapping finger back down to the 17th fret of B, and that's where it's going to stay, just repeatedly tapping that 17th fret for the rest of this. Now we finished off trilling between 10 and 13. Move your first finger back up to the 12th fret and do this. So you tap the 17th fret, then you hear 12 hammering to 14. Now we're going to move our first finger back. We're going to hit 12, 10. So your tapping finger is kind of acting as a pick. It's just a very brief tap. Hit 12 again. So 12, 10, 8. And now here you hear on the album that little hammer between 8 to 10. So we're tapping that 17th fret. Hear 8 briefly before hammering to 10. And then go 8, 7, 8, 7, 5. Let's just put that together. Now we get into the next part. Now, I don't think you really have to be too precise here with how many times you're picking these notes. He kind of starts off by picking triplets, but it kind of, by the end of it, it's morphed into more of a trem pick line. So I think it's safe to say you could really trem pick this whole thing. What we're going to do is 2 beats on the 12th fret of B. Now we're going to go up to 14, 15, 17 on the high E string. Down to the 15th fret on B, 17 again on E. After picking that 17th fret, quick slide up to the 22nd fret, bending up a whole step to the E. And I was picking triplets there, but that's just to slow it down. Once you get it up to speed, like I said, you could be trem picking that and it would be just fine. Now let's talk about the next lick, perhaps one of the most challenging ones of the solo here. We have a repeating 7-note lick here. We're going to start off by sliding into 17 on B and 15 on E. Now pull off between 17 and 15 on E. Come down to the B string, 17, and 15, 17, 19 hammer. So it starts off like that. Now on the repeat, we do hammer pull. We only pick that first note on the E string and hammer pull between 15, 17, 15. And now on the B string, we're going to hit 17, pull off to 15, hammer to 17, hammer to 19. So there's a lot more legato here. You basically play that lick, that repeating 7 notes, 6 times. And then we get into this next bit. Right, but let's just talk about how we transition. Now, I don't think that he had this planned. I think he kind of just knew that he's going to go from this lick to this lick, and then it was a slightly improv to connect them. So as you get this up to speed and feel more comfortable with it, you're probably going to find a way of connecting these licks that work for you. I don't think you have to do this exact thing, but let's just, for completeness sake, go over what I'm hearing on the album, what he actually did. So we have those repeating 7 notes. And then on the 6th time that he does it, to connect it to that next bit, what I'm hearing is he starts off the same with that hammer pull on 15 and 17 on the high E. And then we come down to the B string where we double pick the 17th fret, hammer to 19. And then there's an open G, a palm mute in there. Well, and then he jumps up to the next little bit. Okay, so that next little bit is just a repeating 4-note thing. We're going to jump up to the high E, pull off from 19, 17, 15, and then down to 15 on B. So that's a little trick there, maybe just to keep that those 2 notes on the 15th fret clean. And that happens really fast because those are 16th notes. That's 4 notes a beat. So really fast. Up till now, we've been more focused on 8th notes or triplets. And like I said, we just do that 8 times, fill up 2 measures of just that, except for the very last time. What you're going to do is just do the 19, 17, 15 pull off. And then with an upstroke, snag that 15th fret one last time, while we get into the next part of the solo. So let's just connect that repeating 7 notes and the repeating 4 notes together nice and slow here so you can see exactly how I play it. Okay, now into the next bit, we've got this unison bend where we're repeatedly bending the 18th fret on B up a whole step and then alternating that with the 15th fret on the high E. So it's really just 2 G pitches. You're going to do that 4 times, and then you do this. So that is bending the 17th fret on the high E string, back to 15 on that high E, and then the 18th fret on B again, back to 15 on E, and do that twice. So the unison bends with the extra little bend in there. Now, I have seen some tabs where the 18th fret is being bent, so it's like this. Now, that is easier to play if you want to play it like that, but I hear a much wider scoop to that bend. I think he's starting from a lower pitch, which would mean that he's getting it from the 17th fret. And now we have a little pull-off, run down a scale type lick. Okay, we're going to do 19, 17, 15 pull off again on the high E string going to 17. Now 17 to 15 pull off, down to 19 on B, back up to 15. Now we're going to come down to the B string, and you can get rid of your pinky there because there is a slide on the album. So I think that's how he performed that, is pulling off from 19 to 17 on B, sliding down to 15, back to 17. And then we start with a little hammer at that point. So you're going to want to pick 15, quickly hammer to 17, back to 15, sliding down to 13, back to 15. And it happens really fast. And again, start with that little hammer on 13, hammering to 15, back to 13, sliding to 12, back to 13. And then, so that's hammer pull. We're on that 12th fret of B, hammering to 13, pulling back off to 12. And then there's a 14 on G, back up to 12 on B. Now there's 14, 12 twice on G. After those two 14 to 12s on G, we're going to go 14 on D up to 12 on G twice. And then bend the 14th fret on G 5 times. Let's just put that whole rundown together nice and slow. So we've bent that 14th fret on G 5 times. We're going to hit it one more time while it's bent, releasing quick off to 12 and down to 14 on D. Back up to 12 on G. Bouncing between that 14th fret and the 12th fret on G. Right, you're going to do that twice where you go 14 on D, 12 on G. And then a little chromaticism going on. 14, 13, 12 on D. Same thing on A. 14, 13, 12. Coming down to our final note on 10. Let's do the whole lick nice and slow. And now we're starting to wrap the solo up. So again, there's a very repetitive lick. We're really playing with a G major triad here, making it really bluesy by playing with the third. And this is a thing that a lot of tabs miss, is where we're actually hammering from the 15th fret to the 16th on the G string a lot here. So we're going to start by palm muting the 17th fret on the D string. Then we come up to the barred 15th frets on the G and the B. And the first time, we're just going to pull those slightly down, little bluesy, quarter step, bluesy grind there. Then after that, we're going to go back to that palm muted 17th fret on D. But when we bar the 15th frets on the G string, hammer onto the 16th fret. Okay, so we're going to do that a couple of times. Going to the barred 17th frets on G and B. Let's just put that together slow. And one thing that I'm doing is I am slightly, every time I go to those 15th frets, I'm slightly bending them a little bit just to introduce a little more aggression and keep it really bluesy. So I find that that's a thing, a little nuance that a lot of tabs miss, and a lot of people I see playing it don't have it in there. But if you listen close, that is in there, that little hammer onto the major third of the G chord. So, I mean, it's a very bluesy lick and almost doesn't work in a thrash metal tune, but I mean, I think that it does work because it's just so fast and aggressive. Now we're going to hit those barred 17th frets again. And then there's a quick pull off from those barred 17ths to the barred 15ths, back down to the 17th fret of D, and then into our little repeating hammer thing again there. Right after we go back to that hammering onto the 16th fret, we're going to hit those barred 17th frets twice. One more hammer there. And then we go back to that 17th fret on D, bar those 15th frets, and then repeatedly go back to that bending the 18th fret on B and the 15th fret of E. So that unison bend thing that we already came across earlier in the solo. Okay, so let's put that all together really slow. And there's the whole solo. Let's put it together with some scrolling tab. So we're out of the solo, and now we're going to connect that to an interlude that features a harmonized guitar lead. So let's just see how they connect that. We've come out of the solo with that chromatic walk down, and we've already talked about this. And then we're going to play the main riff 4 times. And then we're going to play that chromatic walk down again. Okay, but just notice that I didn't hit that G the same as the first time. That first time, coming directly out of the solo, we chug G. And then that second time, we hit E, followed by the chromatic walk down. And then we're just playing the main riff. And that's all that plays underneath the harmonized line. It plays 9 times. And then after, it's going to play another 4 times, but that's getting into the outro of this track. So we'll talk about that afterwards. So now we're into those dual harmony lines. Let me layer those up for you. So I'll play the lower harmony first, and that's the one that's played by Hetfield live. And then I will layer that up with the higher harmony that's played by Hammett live. So here we go with a playthrough of those, and then we'll break it down. Okay, let's break down the lower harmony that's played by Hetfield first. Starting on the 9th fret of the G string. So I'm going to hit that 3 times, put a nice palm mute on that. And then come down to the 7th fret. And you're going to want to bend that anywhere from a quarter step to half step. Down to the 9th fret on D. Then come up to the 11th and 9th fret on G, down to the 9th fret on D. So same sort of rhythmic figure, just 3 new notes there. Again, you can bend that 9th fret when you hit that. So far we've got this. Now we have this. Okay, we're coming up to the 12th fret of G. Hit that 3 times. Down to the 11th fret. Now we're going to go 12, pulling off to 11 and 9. Coming back to 11. Now, going to introduce some slides in Hetfield's part. Pulling off from 11 to 9, slide down to 7, back to 9. Now 9 to 7, pull off, slide down to 6, back to 7. Then 7, pulling off to 6, slide down to 4, back to 6. And there's the first phrase of the harmonized lead. Now, the second phrase, we can just start off by repeating all of this. There, we're going to stop and we're going to go up to the B string where we go 10, 8, 7, back to 8. And then 8, 7, pull off on B, down to 9 on G, back to 7 on B. Okay, and there, that is the second phrase. Let's play that slow. Now, the third phrase is the exact same as the first phrase. Now, our fourth and final phrase is once again the same to start off with, but this time we're just going to extend it by a couple of measures by falling further down the scale. Okay, so it starts off the same. Now, at that point, when we've reached 4 and 6, this is where we extend. We go a little bit further than we did before. We're going to go 6, pulling off to 4, down to 2, back to 4. Now 4, 2, open 2. 2, open, down to 4 on D, back up to open G. And our last set of notes, 4, 2, open, 2 on D. Okay, putting that lick together. Okay, let's talk about the higher harmony now. Hammett's part starts off like this. You'll notice the fingering is a little bit different. He plays this without slides, so I wanted to duplicate the fingerings that I see them using for you. So we're going to start on 8 and 7 on the B string. And again, put a palm mute on these triplets. So palm mute that 8th fret. Come down to 7, and you can bend that slightly too. Then 7 on G. Now come up to the 10th fret. Palm mute that 3 times. Down to 8. And then 9 on G. So far we have this. Now come up to the 12th fret, 12 and 10 on B. Now we're going to start coming down the scale. 12, 10, 8, 10. Okay, so you can pull off, hit 12, pulling to 10, 8, and then pick 10 again. Now we're going to go 10, 8, 7, back to 8. 8, 7, 5, back to 7. 7, 5, 3, back to 5. So that's the whole first phrase. Here we go again, nice and slow. Okay, second phrase, we're going to start off the same. And just like Hetfield's part, at that point we jump up. We're going to go to the E string, 8, 7, 5, 7. Then 7, 5, pull off, come down to 8 on B, back to 5 on E. Okay. That's the second phrase. Let's put it together slow. Third phrase, just like Hetfield's part, is exactly the same as the first phrase. Now, our fourth and final phrase, just like the lower harmony guitar, starts off the same, but we just extend it by following further down the scale. So it starts off the same. Okay, now when we reach that 7-5-3-5, that's where we're going to extend it. So we're going to come down and go 5-3-2-3 on the B string. Then 3-2, open 2. Now go 2 open on B, 2-4 on G. Right? And you could just come back up to the open B. You could go, right, coming back up to the open B for that last note there. But on the album, I'm hearing another pull off here. So 4-2, open 2 on G. So that's how you'd want to fret those notes to make it like the album. Okay, let's put that phrase together nice and slow. So there's the interlude with the harmonized lead. Let's talk about the outro now. It features all elements that we've talked about, but let's wrap things up with a playthrough anyway. Okay, wrapping this track up, we start the outro with 4 repetitions of the main riff. And then we go to G on the 3rd fret, 2 measures of that. We've already encountered that pattern. Back to the main riff. And then back to that G. And then it slightly changes. We go back to E. Okay, so we have 6 chugs there. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4. So we chug it 6 times with 2 hits. And now we go to F on the 1st fret. Okay, so it's just 1 measure of E, 1 measure of F, bouncing back and forth. We do that 3 times. Then we go back to that E for a 4th time. But now we go to G again for 2 measures. And then we do the main riff. And then we just chug E. Okay, so there it is. A little hard to kind of wrap your head around the structure of that. I know it gets a little bit funny there, but with practice and going over it repeatedly, you'll get it. So let's slow that down with some scrolling tab. So there is Metallica's awesome track 1. I hope that you learned everything that you set out to learn, and I hope that you have a lot of practice ahead of you to master these parts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in soon for another one.